You're listening to Linux News Log, separating the Linux and open source signal from the noise.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I am your host Adrian, coming to you almost live from lovely Petaluma, California, here in Studio MC2 at QuickSurf Internet Studios. Linux News Log is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Do feel free to head on over to techpodcast.com and check out all the other technology-related shows over there. I'd like to point out to everybody that this is the 14th season premiere of Linux News Log. Quite some time ago, I converted over to doing seasons that were 21 episodes each. And so this is episode 1401, season 14, episode 1. And all episodes are 21 because they're half of 42. And for those of the geeks out there, we all know how how important and special 42 is. If you don't, just shoot me an email, linux@quicksurf.com, and I'll be more than happy to explain it. Like I just pointed out, you can shoot me an email, linux@quicksurf.com, for any questions, comments, concerns. Please do like the show if you're watching this on YouTube or any of the other channels that allow likes or that sort of thing, plus ones. And subscribe to the show if you have not already done so. Again, if you're on YouTube, there's a subscribe button. I keep forgetting which side of my head it's on, but it's above the video. And if you want to, you can also visit us online, quicksurf.com, and there are links to subscribe to the show using your podcatcher of choice. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the stories for this episode. From PC World in its Linux Line blog, and I have to say, PC World, it looks like they have redone their website. It looks fantastic. Anyway, in their Linux Line blog, Ubuntu Linux is changing its plans for Windows 8 Secure Boot. We've previously reported on this. Now, for those of you who haven't really been following it, the Windows 8 Secure Boot in open source, Linux and open source land has been a source of a lot of controversy and how to deal with it. And Linux, various distributions have been basically having all kinds of heartburn over it, and Ubuntu has now flip-flopped from what they were originally going to do. They have decided that, well, originally they said they're going to drop the Grub2 bootloader. The Free Software Foundation has reacted to that. They're unhappy. And so they've basically said, our main concern is that because they are afraid of falling out of compliance with GPL version 3, they plan to drop Grub2 on secure boot systems in favor of another bootloader with a different license that lacks GPL version 3's protections for user freedom. This was the Free Software Foundation's Executive Director, John Sullivan. Now, Canonical, in response to that, has announced that it will use Grub2 after all. And so, can we please just get it working? That's all I care about. Secure boot, it's a good idea. Microsoft's version isn't necessarily the best way of going about it, but they're the 800-pound gorilla, and they have a lot of sway with hardware manufacturers, and Linux is in the unfortunate position of having to support whatever the hardware manufacturers make if they want it to run on that hardware. So let's all just please figure out an easy way that works for everyone and just move forward. From Information Week, I ran across this story. Intel's Clover Trail will support Linux after all. We previously reported that Intel said that it was not going to support Linux. Well, apparently Intel has also flip-flopped and said that it will support Linux after all. There's details in the article. Do feel free to look it up. You can find those on our show notes over at quicksurf.com. Everything we've talked about is linked up in the show notes, as always. From ZDNet, there's a nice blog posting here from Stephen J. Von Nichols in the Linux and open source blog. Red Hat plans to do for OpenStack what it did for Linux. This is pretty interesting. There's a diagram of what Red Hat's planning to do. He's got a whole bunch of commentary and basically a rundown of what's going on. I'm not going to go into details, but pretty interesting read. If it's something you want to read, go check it out. I ran across a press release on OpenSUSE's website over at SUSE.com. And it's entitled "Longtime SUSE and Teradata Partnership Thrives as Big Data Changes World of Business Analytics." It's basically it's a press release. They have announced that SUSE and Teradata are reaffirming their partnership at SUSECon and SUSE's first annual user conference. Teradata relies on SUSE Linux Enterprise to help its customers flexibly and securely run their data warehousing and business analytics workloads off of a mature and scalable operating system. So, again, this is just a nice, handy little press release saying, hey, we've renewed our partnership. Yay, go us. From Virtual Strategy Magazine, Storagepipe introduces a new cloud backup brand for iSeries, AS400, AIX, and other IBM systems. This is, I'm not familiar with Storagepipe, but basically they're, rolling out some new features and functionality for IBM systems which run Linux and all kinds of goodness. Basically it's just new features and functionality. If this is something that you're running, this article is definitely something to check out. Over at ZDNet again, there's an article here in the Between the Lines blog entitled "Why Linux on the Desktop is Still Struggling." And basically it's an editorial / commentary of why Linux is still struggling. I'm not going to go into details. I highly recommend that you do go check out this article. It's a very good read. My personal thoughts on it, one of the reasons why Linux is still struggling, even though there are companies like Canonical doing fantastic work with Ubuntu, is that Linux is still, by the average person, very much viewed as a geek's operating system. It's still viewed as complicated and difficult and hard to use and hard to install, and so much so that all of the pain that Microsoft has been causing users, which, we all know users don't like change. They don't really want to change anything unless they are, experiencing so much pain that it's less painful to go to another platform. That they're not going to do it. And, the part of the problem that, Linux is struggling with, and again, this is my opinion, is that Apple has taken advantage of that and made the less pain path switching to Apple. And it's largely been, a perception problem that Linux has been basically having. Huge perception problem. They're basically, saying, look, guys, they're not taking advantage of the fact that, they're not taking advantage of all the pain that Microsoft is causing their users, and Apple is. And so a lot of the users, instead of going from Windows to Linux, they're going from Windows to OS 10 or Windows to something else like a tablet from Apple or something along those lines. So, it's clearly an issue that needs to be addressed, but I don't think there's an easy way of doing it. From redorbit.com, the Linux Foundation announces Auto Workgroup for open source infotainment. This is a really nice story. Basically, automotive grade Linux is the theme. They're, looking to make Linux part of the automotive experience. Nothing but good stuff. Check out the story if this is something you're interested in reading, and otherwise not. Over at makedesign.com, Adafruit offers a sneak peek at Raspberry Pi WebIDE. This is pretty neat. Again, kind of along the lines of the Raspberry Pi path. Check it out. We previously reported some months ago that Adafruit was working on a version of Raspberry Pi. So, this is kind of a sneak peek of what they've been doing. Pretty awesome. Definitely something you want to go look at. if you're into Raspberry Pi. Over at Engadget, there's this really nice article I ran across. Raspberry Pi's new turbo mode boosts performance by roughly 50% without voiding warranty. There's a great way to not void the warranty, and the team that is behind Raspberry Pi has come up with a way to do dynamic overclocking so that you get about 50% performance increase without voiding the warranty. So pretty neat. Check it out. That'll do it for this edition of Linux News Log. As always, everything we've talked about is linked up in the show notes. Do visit us online at quicksurf.com. And with that, I will see all of you next week.